Planters podcast. Margaret, Adam behind the camera, and you may, if you're a regular follower, recognize Mary Lou. Good morning, Mary Lou.
Good morning, Margaret.
As you know, we didn't get to finish our tour of this place, and we're at St. Paul Center, Mary Lou.
Yes.
And the name of the art gallery?
Ogimamiskwake Gallery.
Which means?
It means Chief Red Earth or Yellowhead Gallery.
So last time, for those that aren't aware of St. Paul's Center, and correct me if I say anything wrong or have missed some things, but last time we went through this very unique art installation that was a collaboration between Indigenous and non-Indigenous artists in response to Truth and Reconciliation Call number 83.
Correct.
And we outlined kind of all of the artists and the project, the process they went through of responding to the material that they had to learn about truth and reconciliation. And then we walked through each of the art pieces, and you kind of told us the intention and the learning, and it was a pretty moving time. Did you want to say anything about phase one before we go to phase two?
Well, phase one was started in September of 2015 with 16 artists. And then it was unveiled publicly in 2016. And we thought it was going to be the only round, except the artists came together and decided, no, they really did want to continue this process. And so after it traveled around Ontario to various galleries and locations, we started the second round that started in it started in January to October in 2018. And the question that was asked is, as an individual artist, where are you now in your personal reconciliation process? And what does, again, reconciliation and truth-seeking look like and sound like in Simcoe County? So we had some of the same artists and some new came on board, and we continued the same process.
That's wonderful. So I think what we're going to do today is get through kind of phase two, which is we'll start in the upper right and continue on.
Sure.
So for those that, I'm assuming the process was the same.
Yes.
One person was chosen, an artist was chosen, they responded to the question that you just outlined, and then it kind of went on, right?
Yes, and this round is a unique round in that it is an imbalance of Indigenous and non-Indigenous artists. This time we just put all the artists' names in the same basket because by now the Great Disturbance has entered Turtle Island and the balance of life had changed. And so this reflects the change of that organization in Turtle Island now that the newcomers are here. So you'll find that there are clusters. Some are a couple of Indigenous artists side by side, some non-Indigenous artists side by side, because things were changing up after the change entered Turtle Island. So this round addresses what does that look like and sound like, and how does that, where am I as an artist on understanding this whole process?
And just to be explicit and clear, the Great Disturbance you're referring to is settlers coming, or
yes,
to
people
the
from
world.
away coming coming to Turtle Island. And I kind of think it's curious that in 1492 and or previous to that is sort of a parallel mirror to what's happening now in the world. We're really seeing what does it look like when people are in mass migration and are being forced to leave their motherlands or being sent away. And so this is our chance to undo that compulsion to continue to push people to other places. So this is kind of where we're at in the world right now, with the balance of people being upset because so many have been forced, what they call weaponized mass migration. And settlement, colonization by settlement is actually a forced migration that displaces those who are the keepers of the earth here. So this kind of directly reflects that. Now, did we know that at the time? No, not really. We were just asking, where are we individually now that we're seeking truth and working together to understand both sides of the event and its effects, and where are we in Simcoe County with that understanding now?
Yeah.
So,
All right, well, I guess let's start with the first one. I will try not to keep our backs to you, Adam, but...
could you go get me the eagle feather?
Yeah, sure,
Thank you.
no problem.
Okay, so the first work up on top, again, when Jenny Clark did this piece, she forgot that the first piece in round one was called Hope. And she called this round, her piece here, Hope as well. So when we got together for the private reveal, she said, oh, I completely overlooked that. How interesting. And so Jenny's hope is a different kind of hope, whereas Xavier's hope is that there is hope, that we wake up to the hidden facts of the residential school legacy, and when we learn the facts of everything depicted in all of these other images in round one, then we have to acknowledge that we are responsible for that knowledge, and what do we do with it? So that there's hope that we will choose to do things differently. And so the challenge is, do we close our eyes to what we have learned and return to denial? Or do we continue to pass the culture of denial on to the next generation for them to deal with? Because they'll have to start all over looking for facts. Or do we have the humility, love, respect, honesty, courage, and accept the truth and grow in wisdom from it? So Jenny's talking about the process now, not just of fact-finding and learning events, but allowing those impacts of our effect on other people's lives, processing all of the emotions that go with that, the blame, the shame, the denial, the sorrow, the discomfort of knowing that we are not the generation that initiated that and continued it, but in order for our ancestors to survive, those are things that they did so that we could also still continue to survive. And then we, in turn, cause great difficulty for the keepers of the earth here in Turtle Island by treating them the way our ancestors treated them the way they had been treated, which was unfriendly. So she's talking about, she was reading a writer at this time, and I just want to get this.
Something here?
Yeah, you can have that. I want to just quote, because it's such a beautiful, beautiful observation. She said, there's a sense of being overwhelmed by thought as new knowledge surfaces. And I felt so inadequate and humbled to be the artist to open up this second conversation about truth and reconciliation. I had learned so much during this first process, responding to the grief generated by learning details of the residential school legacy, and now felt that I had really learned that what I know is so very little. So she was reading a writer named Matt Licata, and she responded to this concept. Rather than trying to understand, transform, or heal the old voices, just one time instead, descend into the mystery and the non-conceptual aliveness of the body. Drop into the vastness of space. Use your breath. Enter into the field of not knowing and into pure imagination. And here it is. In a moment of activation, you need not follow the ancient path of self-abandonment, shame, blame, and self-aggression. In that moment of activation, choose something different. Just this time, even for 1 or 2 seconds, that is enough. A new world is born of that. So this work emerges from the light that comes out of the darkness. And for me, when she unveiled that, it really struck me because it only takes 1 second, one electronic synapse in our heart and our brain to awaken the imagination and do something different for a change.
Right.
So this is her concept of hope. And her hope is that we will activate our imagination now that we know the facts.
I think it's so hard for many people to not have that response. There's I'm just going to react to this, and just that idea of holding space for, I just don't know, and I'm just going to just take a couple of breaths. That's a hard thing that a lot of people struggle with, right? Especially in this day and age when we're expected to know, we're expected to respond, we're expected to perform. sitting in that liminal space of not knowing and not knowing how could be different, and yeah, it's a hard thing.
Yeah, the art of instant gratification. And you know, when I think about it, if we took that one breath just for a moment and went into not knowing, and that's okay, the instant gratification is that our imagination can be awakened.
Right.
That's real instant gratification, because now there's hope.
Right. Right.
So take a deep breath, sit with it, there's hope. So she opens the second level of hope. Okay? Learn the facts, take a breath, and let something different lighten your imagination for instant gratification. It's a whole new definition.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And then we pass it on.
We pass it on to Marilyn George. Now, Marilyn George, in her first piece, she depicted an Indigenous family being carried away in a teardrop by the eagle, because the eagle saw in the future what was going to happen to that family and its displacement. In her second piece, she was inspired by that, do it different. And just for a moment, allow your imagination to come alive. And what she produced now is the hope that our imagination will allow the people who have been forced away to return to their land and be a part of nature again. And so the eagle has returned this family, not directly to the earth, but into a beautiful apple tree. So the family is safe. That tree is luminous. That tree is bearing fruit. That tree is vital, and it has gorgeous red roots and a big, beautiful knothole that we could peer into to imagine what would be there. So that family is now safe to return. That's hope.
Yes.
Let's do it different. Only this time, let's sit in a tree. Okay?
I wasn't much of a tree climber when I was young, but
Well,
I
the
get
good news is the eagle put him up there so they didn't have to, with that
Exactly.
little bundled child,
Yeah.
which kind of, remember that image of that family with that bundled child. It's going to resurface. So the next one, she passes hers off to Joanna McEwen. Now, Joanna McEwen, her favorite tree of hope is the apple blossom. And she does egg tempera stuff that is so transparent. She's just a master egg tempera painter. And at the time that she was painting that apple blossom from Marilyn's tree, the news came out that Tina Fontaine had been found, drowned, and wrapped in a blanket. Now remember the word blanket. This young lady was found wrapped in a blanket, drowned in the river. I think it was in Winnipeg. You will see a blanket in this process this time. Now, she said, justice for Tina will come from us all. And justice is an absence of fear. An absence of fear is true peace. That's that moment of let's do it differently. Let's step out of fear. So that's an homage to Tina. And it happened right in the middle of painting that hopeful tree. That hope is really based now on how we deal with justice for all of the Tinas in this world.
Absolutely.
So take a breath and just for once do something different. So she passed hers on to Jeanette Lacaze. Now, while Jeanette received her inspiration from Joanna, at that very same time, Mr. Boucher, that young man, was shot, trespassing on somebody's property out west. And Jeanette said, how is it that as we seek truth and reconciliation, that now we have not only Tina, but we have Mr. Boucher. I can't remember his first name, I'm sorry.
No, I can't remember.
But anyway, she said, okay.
I think it's the next one.
Yeah, it's the next one, sorry. So she's talking about the relationship right now. She said, I painted this work and called it Fragile and Fractured, while deeply affected by the justice denied for Tina Fontaine and Colton Boucher. It shattered my hope and made me see the systems that I trust fractured and broken. Now, how could a 15-year-old in foster care end up lost and dead, and a young boy looking for help murdered? Reconciliation is about restoring fractured relationships and challenging mindsets that do need to be changed. There needs to be accountability for harm inflicted by the justice system, policing system, education system, child welfare and family system, and healthcare. Patience and time are needed. Now, what I found interesting in her work is that she has actually said it's the systems that we have inherited that kept the settlers safe in their transition to North America at the expense of the indigenous people. And so she has zeroed in on the systems, not the individual people now, because as many of the indigenous people that I've chatted with have said, you are not the one who did this, your ancestors did. So stop feeling guilty, just fix it. You have the ability to fix it. Mm-hmm. And Jeanette zeroed right in on that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was just going to say, I think you make an important point, because so many non-Indigenous people that I talk to go, I didn't do it. It's like a defense of like, I didn't do it. I shouldn't have to feel guilty. I'm like, it's not about your guilt. And for some reason, we just keep going back to that. Like, I need to be guilty. I need to be punished. Maybe it's our Puritan roots. Who knows? But that idea of like, no, you don't. Guilt isn't necessary here. What we're looking for is change, recognition, and change, the truth and reconciliation, right?
Yeah, guilt is that which puts us in a frozen state. It's like drinking the Kool-Aid. I just turned myself on. That's a terrible thing to say. Here. Okay, stop. There we go. You may have to
Sorry about that, folks. These things happen sometimes.
I didn't know I inspired that response. But so, yes, let's not allow ourselves the luxury of being frozen, but let's acknowledge the fact that we have all benefited tremendously at the expense of the first people. Mm-hmm. And we are the generation now that can change that. We can change the institutions that we have structured to keep us in control and function under the misunderstanding that Canada is our land. Canada exists because the peoples of the earth allowed them to come, settle, and share the land. Canada wouldn't exist if they had not been allowed to share it. Mm-hmm. So we have to change that mindset. And Mary Sinclair asks that we elevate both worlds to an equal level of respect and understanding. Nobody owns the earth. We are here to share the earth. However, anything less, and the top 6 inches of the soil is really all that we have access to, because we are all children of the same earth. So we have to move beyond the institution that protects the acquisition of land and private property. Mm-hmm. That's a great conundrum for the structures that our ancestors relied on to replicate that which they left. Mm-hmm. Because to own land was to be wealthy. Mm-hmm. To not own land and to share is true wealth here in Turtle Island. Yeah. So she passed her piece on to Paul Schilling. Now, Paul Schilling is a local gentleman from Rama First Nation, and he's the one who challenged us as artists. Let me see what you've learned through this process. Let's do this again. So he's looking to see if we have learned as a group, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, from our experience and inspiration from the kind spirit. And here's what he says here. The poem that goes along with this is called Two Faces. One face we hide, the other face is for show, the ego. The false face is the warrior, uncomfortable within himself, also afraid, shameful, confused, and broken inside the mind. Master of the intellect, afraid of emotions, two faces we have. And Paul struggles, as we all do, with our ego exterior face and our interior brokenness. Now, the type of brokenness that the Indigenous population is experiencing is one of extermination, systematic, intentional governmental policy of extermination. And Jeanette refers to that when she talks about institutions, because that was the institutionalized purpose of the residential schools. And fortunately, it did not succeed. So Paul struggles with that because he has lived through the direct legacy of intergenerational trauma from the residential schools. So he maintains a strong exterior ego, but inside, the intergenerational trauma, the destruction of language, the destruction of worldview, the destruction of their resources, their land.
Culture.
Yeah, they're the only population in Canada that has an act enshrined to define how they can act. There is no Polish act, there's no Italian act, there is no enacted English law for just that population. It is only the Indian Act. So this is unique into this population. So if we can take that deep breath, allow imagination to move within us, we will find ways to recreate our structures and institutions so that they're not accidentally perpetrating the wrongs that were done to preserve our ancestors in their struggle to survive and acquire and create a country.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he passed his work on to Hilary Smith. Hilary Smith joined us for the first time in this round, and hers is called Relief. Now, Hilary says, "Your silence is killing you." This line from the film Indian Horse truly resonated with me throughout my creative process. My grandparents spoke very little of their time in residential school or the hardships that they faced. I believe that the high rate of suicide amongst our people is because our pain has been buried in silence. But today, the hard truths are coming to light, and the conversations have begun. That directly relates to the first piece when Xavier says, it's the time of the coming of the light. And conversations like these amongst the artists here are bringing things to light in a safe way. It's important for us to express ourselves no matter how much that truth may hurt. The warrior depicted in my painting stands vulnerable. She streams of tears, releasing the pain that she has kept inside. The weight has been lifted. She's an Anishinaabe visual artist who does photography, graphic design, and traditional art forms. And when she responded to Paul's and came for the public unveiling, it was the first time her family really saw that work. And it opened up the conversation in the family to talk about what it is that happened in residential schools. And if you go on the website on round 2, there is a link to Hilary actually talking about her piece herself, and I think you'd find it very interesting. This was a very difficult round for her, but she came back for the next rounds, and you'll see her works again later. So she's talking about breaking silence. Now, she passed her work on to Mercedes Sandy, who's also Indigenous, Anishinaabe. So you'll see the cluster of beginning with non-Indigenous, then Indigenous, non-Indigenous, non-Indigenous, Indigenous, 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 and then finally non-Indigenous down here. So the clusters are here. The conversation is changing. Hilary talks about your silence is killing you. And Mercedes gave birth to her first child during this round. So she went out to the island to be a first-time mother with her family and be surrounded by her relatives. And her little boy was born. And she said, I don't think I can partake in this round because I'm so busy right now. I just gave birth. And so I said, well, do you want to continue in the round? She said, oh, yes, I do. I said, well, why don't you take pictures? Because nobody else has topped you as far as creating something this special. You're the only one that's created a baby for this process, so why don't we photograph him?
A true round, true gift.
Yes, which is really interesting, because our Indian Act and our institutions were designed intentionally so that there will never be more children born who are Indigenous. And so here's Mercedes giving birth. And so on that blanket, you will see great-grandmother, grandmothers, Mercedes, the baby, her partner, as well as family members. Now, since this piece has been done, I think that both of the great-grandmothers, have died. But they lived to see her artwork be completed. And I just want to honor her with her words here. She says, this is Taven Wolf Sandy. He was born March 30th. He's Bear Clan. Taven is a content baby who brings joy to everyone he meets. For the past year, my family has gone through a lot. My younger brothers lost their father to suicide in November. Taven was born on their father's birthday. Taven has helped my brothers and mother in their healing process. He's brought happiness and hope back into their lives. Where there is death, there will always be life. Represented here are 4 generations: 2 great-grandmothers, 2 grandmothers, the father, myself, and Taven. He's the first generation not directly touched by intergenerational residential school experience. He is the end of the old and the beginning of the new. So I said, can I have your permission to put it on a background? And she said, yes. So here's what happened. This quilt, let me just go back. In round 1, Mercedes' work cried out for change. Her new work cries out with joy. In 1976, this quilt was made by the children from the St. Ignatius Day School. It was a residential school, the first one in Montana in the United States, from 1855 to 1972. So this is only 4 years after that residential school was closed and became a day school. Now the children made quilts out of all kinds of inexpensive fabric that was donated to raise funds for their school.
Right.
It was gifted to me in 1976. The quilt is very threadbare and has never been repaired. I appliqued the photos on the quilt and gave it to Mercedes. I prefer that this beautiful morning star be for her family and gain new meaning. It goes to Mercedes not just as a gift from me, but from all the call to action artists. A friend of mine who was First Nations said to me one day, the mightiest person in the room is an infant, because even the most negative person in the world coos and awe and melts at the sight of a baby. That baby touches the heart, and that is what we hope that this infant boy will do. And he is now, I want to say about 9 years old, and he is just an amazing human being, And somebody said to me the other day, oh, I wanted to get a quilt like that because that's how genealogy is recorded in some cultures, in a star. And he said, I never realized that it took 365 pieces in a star quilt to birth out that one person whose genealogy you're listing. I didn't realize it. But I do know that the star quilt talks about returning and being surrounded by your ancestors, which makes sense. Where we would do a line drawing of our genealogy, they would do the star, because they are people who come from the star world.
Right.
And I haven't counted it, but there's probably 365 little chevrons up there, each one being a person that eventually passed their mitochondria down and their genes down to Tevon.
Right, and the fact that it was created by children in a residential school is just...
In 1976.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
a full circle moment there.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's the opposite.
That was Mercedes' piece over
That
there.
was Mercedes' piece.
The
Yes.
big one there, yeah. That was her first piece.
Yeah, I would say she's the Anishinaabe version of Joyce Wieland for the non-Indigenous people. And Joyce has an exhibition down at the AGO this month, and I went to go see it and thought, oh my gosh, you got to meet Sandy. Mercedes got to meet you. You guys do big work on big topics in very female ways.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Mercedes
that's
passes
Sandy.
it on to this.
Mercedes passes it on to Peter Adams. Now, Peter Adams is the landscape artist who did the piece that talked about cultural excavation 7 years ahead of the time that they confirmed detecting the unmarked graves of children out in Kamloops. So Peter gets he receives the photos, and he calls this piece Beyond Darkness. He said, I only had a few photos of this beautiful new family as a starting point for this painting, but I distinctly recalled the dark and dramatic piece that Mercedes had created for the last series of works that our group produced. I wanted to create a backdrop that symbolized our dark and shameful history. Interestingly, what was intended as an entirely abstract surface began to take on the physical outline of a map of Canada. I incorporated some of the troubling statements that I read from the TRC chair, Murray Sinclair, who described the process of reconciliation as mountainous. I remain hopeful, however, that new life and new beginnings can bring opportunities to both reflect on our past and strive for a much better future. He said, I remember when my first child was born. And so he took the arms of Mercedes and her husband and the feet of little Tevon and turned it actually into a map of Canada practically. And this hand motif shows up again. And then he always would put script.
Yeah.
He says, we were deserted for, you are, I can't remember. I can't
remember that one.
No.
Here's one. It's like, do we want to live in a haunted house?
That's right. This is not an Aboriginal problem. It is a Canadian problem. They were treaty told that they were inferior. They were blah, 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 that they were nothing but savages, and it goes on and on and on. And for a guy who only did landscape, he certainly does an internal landscape.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And so here is that whole, just for, how long does it take for conception to happen? One breath, 1 second, and the world changes. Yeah. Something new is created. That's the theme of this round. Something new is being created. Mm-hmm. Is it fragile? Yes. We are fragile. The relationship is fragile. We need to take a breath. We need to let that inspiration inspire our imaginations. So he passed his work on to John Ulrich. John Ulrich, his last piece was talking about all of the energies that were being released in the world right now with all the facts of the legacy of the residential schools in Canada, and breaking the silence of the history and bringing to light facts and dealing with the effects that has on ourselves, our universe, and our institutions. This one, he says, I followed Peter Adams in this process, and I was struck by the hands in his piece. Around the time of the transfer, I was reading Walter Isaac's Leonardo and was constantly thinking about his long preoccupation with the relationship between the square and the circle and how that related to the different ways of being in the world of First Nation, Métis, Inuit peoples, and the lives of European origin. It's also fed into my piece, as did the cycling of water between aquifers and clouds, and the relationship of the sky world and aquifers to the concepts of spirit and soul. Now, if I were to take a microscope and zoom into his, I would probably come up with some layer of depth that would be Jenny Clark's hope. Something is churning. Lots of circle, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of movement.
Yellow too.
Yes, yes, yes. And our ancestors, the plants, the apple tree. That apple tree is going to become important in the next round. Because when they did discover those children, they found them in an apple orchard. And here is Tina Fontaine in the apple orchard. And here is the blanket that's not wrapping her up, but is unrolling the next generation that isn't being touched by this experience. So we come down to the embracing into a new embrace. And so he's really looking at the study of the hands. I asked a little one who was in the gallery one day, what do you think of those hands? Wow, they're like, some of them really want to touch each other, but some of them are like pulling back. So, well, isn't that an interesting observation? Yes. It's also a circle of hope. And we've never done this before, and we're going to make mistakes, as Jeff would always say. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Just keep going with good heart, because that's the cycle of life. So he's really asking us now to become part of creation rather than the masters of creation. Water's life. That child is life who came from water. It just starts moving in a different sentiment.
Different theme, obviously.
Very.
The prompt was very different, but this is much more of you do see more of a theme of new and hope and connection, much more than on this one where there was a lot of disconnection, destruction. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, watch our last podcast.
Yeah. So he passed his on to Christina Luck. Now, Christina Luck, she makes me laugh. She was living in Cookstown for a really good, for a long time, and then she and her husband have recently moved to Ottawa. So she does one more round with us and then moved to Ottawa. But so Christina, she's talking about note to self. Now, I really appreciate that because, like her, every day I sit down and write a list of what I'd like to get done today, and I put little timelines, etc. However, I lose the paper usually during the day and then just wing it. Well, here's what she says. It's called Plan of Action. I start my days by making a list of my intentions for the day. Often my studio is littered with little pieces of paper, and sometimes they become the subject of my art. During round one, I saw how dedicated the First Nations artists and elders were to the hard work of reclaiming themselves, and decided this new art needed to be about my plan to contribute in a practical way. I chose to work small and to the point, literally, as the point of this pencil in my hand is at the center of the painting. The 3 images or items on my list represent a specific action that I'm going to do, and I know what they mean, but others will have to guess. A new word is being written, laundry, which appears on most of my lists. This note is to myself and to non-Indigenous viewers, not to let time tick away. Let's make time in daily life to work on the society that we would like to be ours. She's asking us to normalize a new relationship. Put it on our daily behavior list. Note to self, start again. That's what this is all about. Let's start again, change the storyline, and manage it differently this time. Let's not get stuck and frozen in blame, shame, and grief. Let's move on. Next, keep an eye on Doug and Justin. Now,
No idea who she's talking about.
yeah, no idea who she's talking about. However, there is another Doug present, and there is a Carney present. But there are other people that we have to keep an eye on as well. Now, this is so apropos that when we do not witness and vet the people that we choose to represent us, we put ourselves in grave danger. And that's how those institutions came about. Number 3, put money where mouth is. And what she did was, she actually did several works of art, sold them, and gave the money to a mental health association for Indigenous children.
Nice.
And then laundry. So she's hoping that there will come a time in our relationships where all of this is just everyday stuff, that we all do it regularly. And are we not worldwide becoming more conscious of our ability to change our institutions simply by voting in an educated and compassionate way?
Right. And keeping those institutions accountable
By continuing.
within the election cycle as well.
Well,
Some
yes.
people kind of just go, oh, I just have to vote and I'm done. And no, it's
No, there's much homework to be done.
yeah.
And
yeah.
it's not a party. It's not a party. It's a consensus. It is a circle that goes around and around. So what we choose goes around and comes around. So let's choose with heart, consciously. Because as Christina says, she really believes that her cup is half full.
It's funny
There's
that you
hope.
say about the start again, when you were saying about the starting again on a more meta level.
Yeah.
I think about when I was a younger parent, and I'm trying to figure it all out.
Yeah.
I remember reading a parenting book, and they gave a script of when your kid comes to you going, oh man, today I did this, and I should have done this, and man, I didn't get that done, and I feel so guilty. And the script was, don't worry, tomorrow you can make different choices. So when I see that start again, it's like, maybe today you didn't live up to what you wanted to do. Tomorrow, next time, make different choices and you start again. You just go through that cycle. So that's what that part resonated with me, was thinking of that idea of don't get stuck in the frozen part of the guilt. It's okay. You can make a different choice in the next moment, in the next hour.
Yes.
You're not stuck in your choices from yesterday or yesteryear, right?
I was just thinking about that this morning because I just learned that there are, not that I ever wondered, but it came to my attention that in one day there's 1,440 minutes, and then each one of those has 60 seconds, which is a pretty big opportunity for making choices. And sometimes those choices will take you where you never dreamt, and sometimes those choices are choices that take you where you wish you hadn't gone. But these are all learning. We're humans. That's the point. We are humans. And if we do it with good heart and good mind, there will be good results. So we're asking for good mind. We're asking for good heart. Okay? So she passed hers on to me. And I had just started doing a little bit of research about, when did my ancestors show up in North America? And I did find along the line, one branch of the family showed up in 1864. And I was at a conference, and an elder from Six Nations was speaking, and she said, one act has a 150-year ripple. So that now is really 150 years from now as well. And now is the product of something that somebody did 150 years ago. So never underestimate your choices in the day. For her philosophy, there are 3 types of now, and they're all present at the same moment. And I've never heard anybody explain it so well. I always kind of grappled with all things. If everything is happening now, then how many opportunities and possibilities are there? And they're endless then, which is what she was saying. So in 1864, when my mitochondria turned up on Turtle Island, I was not anywhere in anybody's mind. And here I am now in 2014, and that's very close to 150 years later. And what am I doing? I'm the generation that's here to fix the relationship.
Right.
And because they came, I am here and have that opportunity and responsibility now. They're asking me on a daily basis. Every time I say I'm sorry, I know that that's one of my ancestors saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And when my ancestors stop asking me to fix it, then I'm not going to have to say sorry. And they'll wonder, what's the number one trait of a Canadian then, if we're not saying I'm sorry all the time? Because I do think that we unconsciously carry our ancestors' guilt.
Right.
So let's not get frozen in it. And this was meant to be the dire strait. And in 2014, here I am, and as a nation, we are in a dire strait, a pinch between the flow of energies and water, and we need to cross it over. And I'm hoping that whatever the decisions that I make consciously and unconsciously today, when I look down in 2164, it will be as different as what they are seeing looking down on me now. And my question is, what kind of an ancestor do I want to be? And that's an endless possibility. 1,440 chances a day. So that's that piece.
A lot of time in the environmental world, I'll come across several people that are like, the planet is dying, the earth is going to die, everything. You know, it gets to a very defeated, sad, dark place. And of course, that is a possibility, right? I'm not denying that that's a possibility. But because you don't actually know how it's going to go, you don't know. One decision, one choice, one action, one invention, one whatever could change everything. And in fact, it has, right? So I always say, you don't know how it's going to go. Let's do your best to contribute. But because you don't know how it's going to go, let's live in that. Just like the hope at the beginning, that,
the imagination.
That spot which said, well, it could be like this, but there could be 2 million other options. And just because we think that this is the prediction, I mean, did people predict the Berlin Wall falling? No. Like, did they predict that World War II was going to be won by the Allies? No. For a long, there was all these certainties that we were like, for sure this is going to happen. For sure this is the way it's going to be. And some little thing changed with some other little thing, and then it changed into something else. So there's no reason to think that that couldn't exist still. And in fact, it still does, right? So I like that idea of, we don't know what 150 years looks like.
I know. And you know, I had a dream once that there was this huge, huge tapestry, an infinite tapestry. And the voice said to me, this is the world. This is the universe. And I got overwhelmed. And then this voice said to me, and see this little square here? That's what you're responsible for. And I was so relieved that I only had a small piece. But if I don't attend to that small piece, then it can change the entire tapestry. Yeah. So this is asking people to, we don't have the luxury, well, we do. We don't really have the luxury of the doom and gloom right now. Because that freezes us and it absolves us of acting. I mean, who thought the Jays weren't going to win? Come on, give me a break.
I'm still heartbroken about it. Don't bring it up too much.
Look at the incredible statement of gratitude that they made. That was so beautiful. What a role model. And yes, it's the great game of life. It's all our responsibility to try to catch that ball and to pass it on. And guess what? The game continues. We as a species may not be a part of it, but the game continues somewhere in the imagination of what we would call a God or a creator. So I always try to mention that. Be careful not to allow yourself to freeze.
Yeah, agreed. So you passed it on to...
I passed this on to Paul Whittam. And Paul Whittam did the beautiful Muskoka skyline and the oranges. And he and I have had the privilege of being side by side on 2 occasions. He in his piece says, he took off on the 7 generations concept here. And in his way of understanding things, he says, 150 years is more than 7 generations. The passing of generations is seen in my piece. 7 generations in trees, 7 generations in the winds, generations past, generations to come, the rising and the setting of the sun on Turtle Island. We carry our ceremonies from generation to generation in health. My goal is to bring beautiful Indigenous stories to people, shared through color, imagery, and form. And when I create my work, there will always be explanations given as to why the pieces were made and what the images represent. I want to use color to heal. Medicines come in many forms, and my healing takes place through my work. And the question then is, what does your healing come through? And my guess is it will be something of the arts. And that's Paul's. So he has 1864 sort of ish, the now and the future. And once again, if you lose the game still goes on.
Yeah. A lot of 2 faces I'm seeing here. You know, the
Yes.
second one, this one, lots of faces there, obviously. 2 here, 2 there, 2, like,
Interspersed with new birth,
yep, yeah,
with process, with cyclical, with water,
yeah.
with emotion. And at the very end, we have Xavier Fernandez. Now, Xavier lucked out the first round and was the first artist. And now he's the anchor man. He's the last artist.
This was random
Yes,
choice,
this is
too.
all random
Yeah.
choice, yes, as a matter of fact. And so he just said, oh my gosh. Anyway, so he said on his, and another interesting thing, a lot of these artists got their inspiration through dreams. And here's another dream inspiration. He said, he had this dream, and here's what the voice said to him in the dream. This was given to me in a clear act. The name of this is called the Act of Sharing. And in Ojibwe, that word is Bakwendamajige. And this is what the voice said to him. Truth. That's this round. Listen. That's this round. Truth. Listen. I understand. I know little. Knowledge is power? Well, I have power, but I don't have wisdom. Truth. Listen. Truth. Bakwendamajige. Share. So if we allow this process of just one breath to birth the imagination and change the story, try something different, we will learn to listen. We'll learn truth. We'll learn how to process it. We will learn that we don't really understand. We'll also learn that we don't know the whole story. And we'll also know that there is power in knowledge. However, he's not seeking power. He's seeking control over self. I don't have wisdom. That comes with age and grace. But I am working on truth of self and other, of listening and sharing. And so when our Indigenous female advisor, Ernestine Baldwin, came and saw the round 2, she said, oh my gosh, there's hope. I can't tell who's Indigenous and who's non-Indigenous. And that was the greatest compliment she could have given round 2. The kind spirit is saying very clearly to us, don't get stuck, but learn the truth.
Yeah.
Learn the facts. Learn how your behavior has affected each other, because Indigenous have been legislated, and we have been taught that we are superior. We've both been harmed. So that we need to go back and we need to reset that. And we do that through the arts, through the imagination, through conversation, through vulnerability and creating safe spaces. And without a whole lot of work, a community is formed and a trusting space is created. And out of that, that little baby was born.
The best metaphor.
And Canada is that baby.
Right.
And Canada means land where there's heart all over. And we're coming out of the darkness. And that little baby's footsteps are going to take us into the future. If we choose to do it differently now.
Right.
With
Each of us.
with a different attitude, everybody, yes, each, get out your laundry list. So this is an extremely hopeful round.
Yeah. Well, now we're not today, but we've got two more rounds to do.
Yes.
So a little sneak peek is that we'll be coming back to talk with you about round 3.
Okay.
And then we're going to do round 4 as well, correct? Looking at Adam behind the camera because I have to have him here and Mary Lou.
Yeah.
But we've committed to do all of it, and we'll see. I'm interested. I don't want you to give any spoilers, but I'm interested to see what the theme for round 3 is. But we'll continue with this. So, can you just give the details if people want to come see this for themselves?
Yes, if you'd like to come see this for yourself, first of all, I would recommend that you go to our website, and that is all small letters and all one word, call to, as in TO, action 83, the numbers, simcoecounty.ca, call to action 83, simcoecounty.ca. Please familiarize yourself with it. You'll see our song, you'll see our all of the images, and it will also tell you what was happening historically while we were in the process of creating those images. That is just as interesting and prophetic, Margaret Prophet,
Yeah, Margaret Prophet.
as the spirit of the works that the kind spirit is given everybody. So if you familiarize yourself with that, you will find on the back page, the last spot, there is an entry where you will find St. Paul's numbers, and you can call and you can, if you want to book a group tour and have somebody here like me to docent it for you, you can call and we'll make arrangements for that. You can also just drop by here at the facility. It's 63, I think it's 63, it might be 93, 63 Peter Street North. Aurelia. It is originally called St. Paul's United Church, which actually stands on the very land where Ogimamiskwake, the last traditional chief of the First Nations of the area, resided. So this is actually two cultures standing right next to each other in this gallery. So give us a call. We also do workshops if you're a settler population and you're interested in taking part in an experience that will help you get understand better how to move forward without being frozen with guilt or shame. Just give us a call at the church and they will forward the information to the person who can help book you an experience. This gallery exists on no budget. We exist on donations, and we have never received a grant, and nor will we request for a grant or monies, because this is a gallery of and for the peoples in truth and reconciliation. No one makes money off this, and we are more than happy to meet you here any day. The church is open. This organization's doors are open on Mondays and to Thursdays. Friday, the office is closed, but if you call ahead and have a tour, we'll make sure that we're here for you.
That's perfect.
So any donations are greatly appreciated.
Of course, everybody, put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's
exactly. Right. So if you enjoyed this podcast, please interact with us. Tell us, what you learned. Like and share to your friends. This is a really easy way to get into the idea of truth and reconciliation if you haven't really thought much about it or know much about it. So we do this as a service to the community, and so hit a like, subscribe, that would be great too. We will be back next week, Adam. Don't know, it's a big surprise where we're going to be or who we're going to be at. Adam knows, I don't know. I just show up. So we'll thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Mary Lou, again, and we'll be seeing you soon.
Absolutely.
All
Thanks.
right.